What's up guys, it's Lord Botha here with another video, and while in the movie industry, both fans and critics have found something to agree on, and that is Joker 2 is simply awful, it seems that fans and critics in the video game industry have finally found something they both agree on. And that thing they agree on is that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is absolutely phenomenal. This comes to us from IGN entitled Dragon Ball Sparking Zero Review. As someone who grew up with Dragon Ball Z Budokai Trilogy and merely dabbled in the Budokai Tenkaichi games, I'll admit I was a little bitter when I first heard about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. In my eyes, the inferior trilogy of PS2 games was being brought back, and all I could do was sit and watch. And watch I did as Dragon Ball Sparking Zero soared in on a flying Nimbus straight to the top of the Dragon Ball game totem pole. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is the new benchmark for Dragon Ball games. It captures the magic of the original Tenkaichi games perfectly, while the fresh approach to a well-worn story and its deep roster of characters serve as the ultimate celebration of Akira Toriyama's classic. When it's the pure Dragon Ball millions know and love, it's great, and when it dabbles in what-ifs with the Sparking Zero episodes, Zero really excels. So even the shills at IGN say that the game is really good. They gave it an 80 here, which is IGN's way of saying, hey, this game isn't woke and gay enough for us to give it a higher score, but we can't deny that it's actually a really good game. So we actually have to give it the best score we can, which is an 8. Meanwhile, just by the player numbers, it seems that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is doing quite well. A 92% positive review on Steam out of 10,000, almost 10,500 reviews. And over the past 2 days it's been out, we can see here an all-time peak of 91,000 with 70,000 players in it right now. And it is 3 p.m. on a Wednesday here, so this game is yet to even have a weekend to be able to play. Could it cross the 100,000 mark in all-time peak? I wouldn't put it past them not to achieve that. And for something that is essentially a fighting game with some story elements to it, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, especially when you compare it to the live service games that we've been covering, right? That have had tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars poured into their development that are pulling less than 500 people and peaked at a couple thousand, maybe 10,000, if I remember. Or things like Concord that did so poorly that they've now taken it off the shelves. A Dragon Ball fighting game done correctly is pulling these kinds of numbers. I am very interested to see the sales numbers on this game when it releases, because my guess is that they're going to be through the roof. The story role-playing elements that are involved in this game, from what I read, also piqued my interest as a gamer and as somebody who has very little knowledge of Dragon Ball Z. I was never a Dragon Ball Z kid. That just wasn't a thing for me. I got involved in anime later in life, and Dragon Ball just wasn't one that I ever picked up. It seemed very involved and a lot to catch up on. Is it on the list? For sure. But there are a lot of things I want to / have to get to before I get involved in Dragon Ball Z. But despite that, it's interesting to see both the shill critics and actual gamers, the actual audience consuming these games, agreeing on something for once, and that is this game is phenomenal. And it almost seems like the media want to not just begrudgingly agree with gamers that this game is great, like they had to with something like Black Myth Wukong. They actually think this game is great and they want to shout it from the rooftops. And I think the only reason why a lot of them are not doing that is because people a lot higher than these reviewers are telling them to tone it down. So they're as loud as they can be without actually loudly praising this game the way they want to. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero may reign supreme on the charts for a couple of weeks, because as we all know, Assassin's Creed Shadows got pushed back and it doesn't really seem like it has a ton of competition. But yeah, glad to see critics and gamers actually agreeing on something for once, and I'll be very interested in the sales numbers on this when they get released. But those are just my thoughts on all this. If you have your own thoughts, go ahead and leave them in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, I appreciate you watching all of it. We'll talk to you again later.